Hey everyone, Matt here from Docs Are Running It. Today we're going to do a comparison review or should I upgrade episode of the Prime X Strung version 3 versus the Prime X Strung 2. So this is the OG super shoe. It's been around, super trainer. It's been around for a while, now 4+ years going on. Started with the Prime X, became the Prime X Strung 2, and then Prime X Strung 3. So this is technically the 4th iteration. As soon as I saw this shoe, I was like, I'm going to buy my pair. I don't know if Adidas is going to see it to me. So grabbed it so I get some miles on it. And I'm gonna be honest that I really love version 2. It was great. It was not fast. It lost the speed that the lighter previous version had, but it was actually surprisingly stable neutral because of the sole to setup. This piece here actually and the bevel made it really laterally biased at the heel. Forefoot bevel is actually also laterally biased, and the midfoot wasn't terribly narrow with some sidewall action. So it actually worked very, very well for me. Even though the upper I wasn't the biggest fan of, it still held well. I had 200 miles on this. The outsole's still intact, midsole still holding up well. It's just heavy, and it wasn't a shoe that could handle much speed stuff in at all. And then version 3, I tried on, and I'll be honest, I hated this shoe when I first put it on. And I'm glad it took some time to break in because it does need time to break in, and I'm now really enjoying it 30 miles in. It's just not the same shoe as version 2, and the whole purpose of this review is to help you figure out, hey, since these are different, if you're in version 2, should you upgrade to version 3? Should you buy the shoe on sale because these things are $300? Or is it really worth going into version 3? If you're interested in either one of these, which one might you consider? And hopefully this review will help you figure this out if the shoe is even appropriate for you. So as always, let's start off with my specs in my men's size 10. So stack height wise, these are supposedly exactly the same. 50 millimeters in the heel, which is insane. 43 in the forefoot for a 7mm drop, and I will say version 2 feels like a 7mm drop, version 3 feels lower than that, and I'll explain why in just a second. From a weight perspective, they're still chunky. Version 2 is 11.3 ounces in my size 10, or about 320 grams. Version 3 does lose some weight. It's 10.9 ounces, or about 310 grams, and it is noticeable also because even though these both have light strike Pluro foams, it is not the same light strike, which is kind of annoying because, you know, companies say ZoomX Light Strike Pro, but the foams are totally different. And I will say version 3 is coming in a lot softer and a lot bouncier than version 2. But that was only really apparent if you land on the heel. So when I was first running in this, I was kind of short in stride, tired after a race. I was up my toes a little bit more, and it actually caused me some forefoot pain because this shoe is really stiff. Neither one of these have flexibility at all. So if you have toe mobility issues and you don't want any flexibility, these are both really, really great. If you land up farther, they move the transition point back a little bit in this shoe, so it actually initially gets just a teeny bit stiffer until you figure out where to land. And then if you land on the heel and roll forward, that is the best thing. You get up on the forefoot, the earlier landing or the earlier rocker kind of makes it awkward to find a landing spot, so it did feel uncomfortable. As it's broken in, it is better, but there's more versatility in version 2 about where you can land. Version 3, it really works best if you land with a good heel strike gait, not good, but you know, neutral, okay? It's not good or bad. A good heel, like landing on the heel and rolling forward. This is a very rolling and rockered shoe. Now, this one was more of a training shoe, kind of did have that solid posterior lateral bevel, did have a decent rocker, was a little bit stiff, but did better on those longer efforts where you just didn't need the most rockered and rolling shoe. It didn't feel as artificial, whereas this one, not artificial, but it just didn't feel as fast. The forefoot rocker here, when you get on the heel and the amount of bounce from the foam makes it feel a lot faster underfoot. So still a great long run shoe, just a lot softer and a lot bouncier and rolls much faster. It's been much easier for me to pick up the pace in this shoe than I was able to in version 2. And like I said, I really maxed out at like kind of longer, easier, maybe a little up-tempo effort, but even marathon pace kind of felt difficult in this shoe, but it's still a great trainer, and I obviously got a ton of miles on that. Version 3, the bouncier foam, the better rocker, and faster transition really makes this shoe feel faster. Like marathon pace, no problem. Pushing up-tempo, pushing a stroller for 12 miles after a 5K when my legs are really, really trashed, felt a lot better. I've done some tempo workouts in this shoe, and it's been much better. Is it the fastest shoe for super fast efforts? No, because it's too big and it doesn't respond quite fast enough. But I think even down to half marathon efforts, this still can handle that. So better pace versatility and faster, and a little bit stiffer with that transition, because they've also changed stuff where version 2 had 2 plates, so top and bottom carbon fiber plate. Version 3 has a carbon fiber plate and the energy rod system down below. So it does stiffen things up a little bit, so thank goodness they moved this transition back, but just know it's gonna feel a little bit snappier and bouncier into the foot than version 2. So if you don't want the most insane bouncy heel ride, you have a little more versatility where you can land, better long run shoe, this version is going to be better. If you want the way bouncier, way more versatility into pace-wise because of the bounciness and better rolling transition, version 3 is going to be better. But because this is bouncier and softer, it's also less stable. So the things I talked about with the really great guidance, the lateral guidance in version 2 is for the most part gone in version 3 because it is softer. It's not the most unstable shoe on the market, although I will encourage you, both these shoes, don't do anything that requires a lot of turning. Version 1, there were stories of people like rolling their ankles so bad that not only did they tear ligaments, they actually fractured bones because they're so tall. That's kind of what happens. And when you have a shoe this tall and it's not the widest platform, yeah, don't turn in it. But if you're going in a straight line, it's totally fine. I will just say because of the softer ride, the longer you go, I get really tired. I didn't get tired in version 2 because it basically gave me medial support. Version 3, it is a much more centered ride. It is slightly wider. The forefoot is certainly wider, and I will say from a forefoot stability standpoint, this still is phenomenal. The forefoot rocker is biased laterally, so if you have medial forefoot stability needs, this is gonna be awesome. If you are sensitive to that, that might not be a good thing because it's really gonna pivot you off that. So once I pick up the pace, it's fine. As things start to slow down, a little bit more troublesome, although it's still got some really, really good bounce. But the midfoot, even though technically it looks wider, just the softness makes it feel a little less stable, and there's really no sidewalls or top line as there were in version 2, so not as centered on the platform. But thank goodness there's a solid posterior bevel. So heel and forefoot, there is still some lateral bias there, so people that need that, it's gonna work, which I can handle running in the shoe. But if you have severe midfoot stability needs, this is not gonna be the best option, and it does fatigue me as I start to get into those longer miles. But still, like a great, really meant for long runs, workouts, faster long run efforts, and a really great option. I think if I had to pick between the two of these, if I actually had to race in these, I'd probably choose version 3 just because it is a faster shoe. And yes, before you comment that these are illegal shoes, I'm not a professional runner. I'm not going to be running in races where I'm going to be going for prize money and placing at top levels. So for most of us, don't worry about that. If you're a pro runner, you're running fast, it's a different story. I'm pushing a stroller, although still running 5:30 pace and like 17:30. So, you know, not the slowest, but I'm not a super fast runner. So, totally fine, probably the better race version, the race ready shoe, but still not as light or as fast as the originals, but still faster than and more like workout friendly than version 2. Now, the upper also changes. Version 2 takes me forever to get on. Is it secure? Yeah. Is it snug? Yeah. Is the volume really low? Yeah. The strung upper really locks your foot down. It can cause a little extra pressure, and I had to have my foot go just a little bit numb on some longer runs, but outside of that, it was fine, and the durability has been great. No issues over all these miles, and no heel counter, which is phenomenal for someone like me. Now, version 3 also doesn't have a heel counter, but the upper is a little bit lighter, and it actually fits a little bit wider. That was a little problematic because there's not really any padding in the tongue area. It's a one-piece upper, okay, this strung upper, but if you need to tie the laces down more, there is nothing to protect your ankle. So some people, you have some extensor tendons on the top of your foot. If you tie laces too tight, that can actually irritate them and cause a little bit of an inflammatory response in that area, and it usually sticks around for a day or so and goes away. But you can't tie these too tight. In fact, I've left the laces kind of loose, and for the most part, the shoe holds on really well. It's still got that nice, relatively secure fit. You're just gonna get a little bit more room in this upper, and you may have to tie the laces a little bit, but don't do them too tight because you will get some pinching. So overall, version 2 is a little more snug, a little more secure upper. Version 3 has more room, especially more room in the forefoot, which is really nice. In this shoe, I've got 30 miles on my pair, so it is breaking in more, but just be careful with the laces because they are a little bit pinchy, and there's really no last lace hole to lace lock the shoe, which you did have in this version. So a little wider, slightly less secure, far more snug and lower volume, way more secure in this version. So different things for different people. And finally, I've mentioned durability. Version to 200 miles on this. Durability is insane. The upper, the midsole, the outsole are phenomenal. Version 3, I think everything's going to hold up well. My only concern, the light traction upper, which is the stuff that they're using, it lasts forever. I've not had any abrasion on this version or any of the Adidas shoes that I have that have this shoe on there. My only concern is now that there's a split midsole, or outsole you can see here, I am hoping I don't catch this. I'm at 30 miles, and I'm not seeing any catching there, but I'm gonna have to keep an eye on this. But I'm a little concerned the durability may not be nearly as good, especially with a softer upper, but I'll take this to 100 miles and I'll see. But overall, it seems to be doing super well so far. Midsole, super durable, seems to be holding up exactly the same as the first day I put it on. Just know that these are different shoes. So they seem to last. Version 2 definitely lasts. Version 3, I'm still gonna find out. But fit, a little bit wider, bouncier sole, teeny bit less stable, but faster shoe versus this is more the training option. So I'm really curious. I'm gonna keep getting miles in that. I'm glad I grabbed a pair early, and I hope this review helps and helps you figure out which one, if you're even interested or if it's even appropriate, might work better for you. Just know that there is no proprioception in this shoe. If you want ground feel, there's none of it. Great recovery shoe. May not be the shoe I'd suggest training in all the time unless you have some medical or biomechanical needs that keep you in this shoe. I would definitely, if you're gonna wear this, spend some time barefoot or balancing this stuff out, because we don't know the long-term effects of running in a shoe this tall, and we'll hopefully find out, but who knows if we will. But there's still great shoes. I think they are worth the money. I think their durability and their functionality certainly does, but I'm really curious because this is my experience. I know a lot of other people have run in version 2. If you tried version 3, do you agree or disagree with my sentiments? Do you agree with my sentiments that I feel like version 2 was more of a training shoe and I wish this was lighter, but I understand the limits? Have you tried version 3? Do you feel like it's bouncier? Do you feel like it's different? Please let me know in the comments below. It's really also helpful to see, not only to have my review and comments on here, but if you can contribute yours. The whole point of what we do this is to help people and educate people to figure out shoes appropriate for them, what can help them run better, what can help them stay healthy, because ultimately, as physical therapists, our goal is preventative, have you not need to get injured and be able to get out there and enjoy your run and enjoy your time.
Hey there everybody, it's Nate with Doctors of Running, and today I wanted to talk about 3 features of a shoe that you could consider having if you've been dealing with chronic issues on the inside of your ankle, such as tibialis posterior tendinopathy or something like tarsal tunnel syndrome. I wanted to talk about this because this is something that I've been dealing with a bit lately, and how I've been changing my shoe selection on top of all of the more important rehab things that I've been doing. So the big goal of this is, for a time, decrease the amount of load and demand on that part of the ankle. So here are the 3 things that I would consider. The first is the midsole compliance. If you have a very compliant midsole, such as one that you could find in the Rebel 5 from New Balance, that's going to allow a lot more motion, whatever your body likes to do. So for a lot of people, we have to start supinated and go into a pronated position. That's not bad. But if we have a very compliant midsole, that can allow you to really collapse into that arch. Pronation is not bad. But when you're dealing with this, you want to decrease the amount of demand and load on that area. So a very compliant midsole is something that's going to allow you to fall in quite a bit. So you might want to look for something that is a little bit firmer. We have the Solomon shoe here, the Aero Glide 3. It's a bit firmer of a midsole. It's going to be a little bit more resistant to medial and lateral motions. The second feature that you want to look for is some sort of rocker. All of the muscles and tendons that are passing on the inside of the ankle help with what we call plantar flexion, getting up on your toes. And so if you have a rocker profile that's a little bit stiffer, that's going to allow you to utilize the shoe's rocker and decrease the demand on everything in the calf. A lot of times we think of calf, we think of gastroc and soleus, those big ones, but it's also going to influence all those smaller ones that pass along the inside of the ankle. So you want something that is a little bit more rigid, a little bit more stiff, even if it doesn't have a plate, just something that's giving a little bit of that rocker profile that'll decrease the load on all of the muscles in the back of the ankle or of the calf and those tendons coming through. The third feature that you might want to consider is the width of the midsole. There's some really nice shoes out there that are typical neutral trainers that also have a slightly more narrow midfoot. And you can see that it starts wide, it gets a little bit more narrow, and then wide again in the forefoot. Not inherently bad, but if you're wanting to decrease the amount of motion that you're going into pronation, or at least the rate at which that you go, you may want to consider something wider. So this is the Ride from Saucony. Compare that to the width of the midsole here of the Triumph 22. You can tell that's a bit wider. So the three features that you want to look for, again, are making sure that the midsole is not too compliant. You don't want too much squish. Second, you want a little bit of a stiffer rocker profile. And third, you may want a slightly wider midfoot construction in terms of how it contacts the ground. This came into works for me when I was going on a big trail run this past weekend. I've been having some issues, and I was actually going to take this shoe out on my first trail run. It's the Cloud Ultra, and really awesome looking shoe. I've taken it out a little bit and I was excited to run in it, but I was a little bit nervous about how narrow this was in the midfoot because of the sensations that I've been having and the symptoms I've been having. So I ended up opting for the Tendon X3. You can see in comparison, the midfoot is significantly wider. The midsole here is not ridiculously compliant. It's a little bit stiffer, plus it has a plate that spans from medial to lateral, so adds some stiffness side to side, and then it has that rocker profile that is stiffened by the plate. So this ended up being a great shoe for me for that particular trail run because it gave some stability to my ankles in a season where I wanted to decrease the load. So there's your three things to consider if you've been dealing with that issue more chronically.
Hey everyone, Matt here from Docs Running, and today we're going to do a 100-mile review of the Mount to Coast P1. Now, Mount to Coast is a ultra-marathon specific company. They've had many shoes that's come out in the last year. I actually also have the T1, which is the trail version, which I'm testing right now, which I'm really enjoying. I will have to admit that I actually gave Mount to Coast a really hard time at first because some of the geometry and stuff, wasn't quite where I might have liked it in the heel. Some of the verbiage that you used around pronation wasn't exactly where the evidence was, and they have since changed on their website, which is great and a good job. But I kind of came at the shoe in the wrong way. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to stick with Miles on this because it seems like a shoe I should like. And one of the things that I definitely liked about it is it's one of the few ultra marathon stability shoes out there. And it's also one of the few shoes that actually has forefoot stability specifically. So I decided to keep with it. And as I've broken it, it's gotten more comfortable. And I finally figured out how to use it and what it's really meant for. So I'm going to share that with you. And so the goal is not to sell you the shoe, to help you figure out, is it something that you may want to consider or absolutely may not, and kind of think about how shoes are designed and continue to figure out what things work best for you. So as always, we're going to start with my specs in men's size 10. So my version's coming in at 288 grams or about 10.1 ounces. So not the lightest shoe, but also not the heaviest, which is great. Stack height is 37 millimeters in the heel, 27 in the forefoot for a 10 millimeter drop, which is surprising. Not super duper stacked, not also super low, just sitting right nicely in the middle. There's a full length with called light cell midsole here, which is partial PBA from what I understand. I'm not a materials expert, but it's not fully PBA. There is some nice resiliency to it, but it doesn't have a bouncy ride. And that's where I think I ran into trouble with this shoe because I was expecting $160, supposedly PBA foam. I was expecting a really bouncy ride underfoot, and that's not what this shoe gives you. It gives you a very good shock absorbing ride. But if you're going in here with me with a long stride, expecting to pick up the pace, that's not what this shoe is really meant for. It's meant for long distance runs with a shorter, kind of like a higher cadence and a shorter stride. If you really try to take off and run fast in this shoe, it just doesn't respond very well. And that was very frustrating to me initially. But then as I kind of learned and did longer runs in them and my stride shortened up a little bit and I learned to adjust, that's where this does best. So those that have like a short stride, higher cadence, really trying to be efficient over longer distances, that's where this shoe is going to do the best. The midsole is not meant to be bouncy. It's meant to really shock absorb really well, which is what it does well. It will keep and hold its form over long runs. I've done lots of long runs in this shoe. It maintains the same feel and does not break down. Even over 100 miles, the midsole feels exactly the same. So it holds up extremely well. It's just like I said, it's not a super shoe. It's not going to give you that bounce. It has some stiffness to it from some of the stability mechanisms we'll talk about, but it does have some flexibility. So it's not going to be, don't go in there expecting a super shoe. And that's where I was wrong. And so now I understand it a little bit better. Shorter stride, higher cadence, going to work really well as you're the one pushing off and transitioning really well. The other thing, the heel bevel is also pretty clunky. And if you get your foot strike a little farther forward, great. Bach and I both commented on this. There is one there. It's just small and centered and doesn't give it the best heel transition. But again, you increase your cadence, you land a little farther forward, that's not as big of an issue, but just know that heavy heel strikers, you may not like this shoe. The other thing about it is some stability mechanisms in there that also just make it a little bit clunky, but for the right person will stabilize the heel. So not a fast shoe, meant for longer runs. The midsole holds up super well. I will also comment the outsole after 100 miles has like no wear. I tried to destroy this thing, and the comments and claims about the durability are really true. It's held up. This is my left shoe, 100 miles on this thing. absolutely awesome. So you'll get your money's worth out of the shoe. You just got to be the right person to use it. From a stability standpoint, this is where this gets really interesting. And I finally figured out why the heel also feels a little clunky, is there are little cups in the midsole in the heel that actually provide very nice guidance there. So once you break it in and you understand that, you're like, oh, okay, stable heel, really, really nice. Just clunky at first, especially if you're expecting a smooth ride. So mounted coast, I would bevel this a little better, especially if it's meant for longer distances, but there are mechanisms in the heel to lock you in that do feel stiff and create some structure back here. They're in the midsole though, so not major sidewalls here, but more in the midsole that creates some structure. If you go too far medial, too far lateral, holds you really nicely. But that's not what's really special. What's really special is the 3D arch rail, which comes in. It's just a fancy term for the fact they've got this little piece that sits right here in the lateral midfoot. So if you supinate, actually pulls you back, and I found that, but then it travels up and into right under the medial forefoot. So I'm someone, my first toe really collapses. I do very well with forefoot stability. That creates, it's a mild stability mechanism, creates some nice stiffness on the medial side of the forefoot to be able to push off. I struggle because I collapse and pronate there, and I have trouble re-supinating back up the forefoot, which you're supposed to do. That is a nice mechanism that helps that. So if you need medial forefoot stability, this is one of the few shoes, regardless, that has this mechanism in there, and it's actually done very, very well. So it's been a great shoe that I've really prescribed for a lot of people because you don't find forefoot stability a lot, and people have done really, really well. So if you need mild medial forefoot guidance and a little bit heel central guidance, this shoe is going to work really, really well for you, and it's one of the rare options, like I said, that does that. The stability is mild. It's not aggressive. If you need somebody that needs a higher level stability, it's probably not going to work for you, but mild amount's going to do really, really great and does great over longer runs. Has been, again, holds me up very, very well. Now, from an upper fit, this is where it's both good and bad. So upper's very comfortable, feels very good against bare skin. The knit mesh actually is wider as claimed initially. I was like, ugh. And part of the reason I didn't find it as wide initially is because of this toe guard. So if you're gonna get this shoe, if you are between sizes at all, and I'm like becoming a 10.5, this, you got to get a half size up. If you're running an ultra marathon, you need to get a half or a full size up because that's what irritates me the most. The rest of the shoe is great. Even though there's a heel counter, there's enough padding that hasn't bugged me. The shoe sits really, really well. It's really easy to tighten and lock the laces down. The tongue is gusseted, so it sits really nicely in the foot with enough room for your toes, but just the toe guard here really crunches things down and has caused a lot of rubbing on my first toe. That has kind of broken in, not quite, so I would really encourage you. I got 10. I should have gotten 10.5. I just didn't know. So get a half size up for most things is what I would suggest. You'll thank me on the toe guard thing. But if you're doing ultra marathons, you're probably going to want even a full size up just because of swelling that happens, not just like volume-wise, but also length-wise. So that's the only thing. Sizing's a little off because of the toe guard. If that was fixed, that'd be fine. But outside of that, upper is really comfortable just outside of that. If you have a little wider foot, the volume is really adjustable. The laces respond very well to adjustment. And I've tested this on runs to go, hey, let me see over a long run how it does. Can I readjust the laces? And yeah, Mounted Coast does just a really good job with that. It's just this toe guard is really hard. If you're sensitive to those like me, get a larger size. So overall, durability is really awesome. It is really, really meant for long distance efforts. It's not a short distance shoe. It is certainly not a speed shoe, and it does not do very well with that. It's meant for the person that has mild, especially forefoot stability needs on the medial side and has a higher cadence, shorter step, stride length, and just wants to be able to go long. And I'm really impressed with what Mounted Coast is doing. There's still some refinements that need to happen. I would like a little bit more bounce from this midsole rather than just shock absorption. It just doesn't bounce back very well, but it absorbs shock really well. So overall, interesting shoe. I'm really excited to see what comes from next. And I really want to know, since this shoe has been out there for a while, do you agree or disagree with my sentiments? I haven't heard, there's been a lot of stuff on social media, a lot of influencer stuff like that, and it makes it really hard to get some really good information. So those who have tried this and any other Mounted Coast shoe, please let me know in the comments below. Do you agree or disagree with me? What have been your experiences? Because I do this because we want to share this stuff, help educate you on shoes that may or also may not work for you, and wanted to help you stay healthy and learn more about what fits your foot.